So there's a video making the rounds from a figure known as Cardinal Wise, and it makes a really powerful claim about our justice system. In this explainer, we're going to break down that argument, piece by piece. Now, just to be clear, we're not here to agree or disagree. Our only goal is to understand exactly how the case is built, from its very first claim all the way to its final call to action. Okay, so this is the bombshell, right? The central thesis at the very heart of the video. The idea is that the court system isn't about fairness anymore. It's been turned into a weapon. But a weapon for whom and against whom? Well, that's the question the rest of the argument is designed to answer. All right, to really get a handle on this, we're going to walk through the argument just like the video lays it out. We'll start with that initial accusation, the grave injustice, then we'll dive into the statistics being used. After that, we'll look at the claim about false accusations, get a feel for the biblical framework behind it all, and finally, see what the proposed solution is. All right, first up, the core accusation. The speaker calls it a grave injustice, and that's a really strong way to start. So let's unpack what that actually means, because this is the foundation for everything else that follows. And look, the argument is really blunt. The source basically says the whole system has been weaponized by, well, the video calls them manipulative women, and that their goal is to completely strip men of their rights, their kids, their money, everything. And this isn't framed as some rare, isolated thing. The claim is that the courts are now enabling this on a huge scale, all driven by what the speaker describes as greed and vengeance. Okay, so that's a huge accusation. So how does the video back it up? Well, it moves from this big claim into some hard numbers, and it zeroes right in on family court and custody battles. The whole argument really leans on two key statistics. First, the claim that women get primary custody in 90% of cases. 90%! And then, the second number is that even when fathers fight for custody in court, they only win about 17.5% of the time. So you can see how those two stats together are used to paint this picture of a system that's just completely tilted against men. And that brings us to the next piece of the puzzle. The video connects these custody stats directly to money, arguing that the child support payments become crippling. That's the word used. And the claim is that this isn't about fairness. It's just another outcome of that same biased system. So from money, the argument then escalates to what the speaker calls the ultimate weapon. We're moving into a whole different territory here, focusing on accusations that can completely change someone's life. To really drive this point home, the video brings up a study suggesting that false rape claims could make up anywhere from 2.1% to 10.9% of all reported cases. But it's that top number that gets all the focus. You hear up to 1 in 10 repeated, really highlighting just how big the speaker believes this problem is. But why? What would be the motivation here? Well, according to the source, it's not about seeking justice. The claim is that it's all strategic. It's about getting leverage in a custody fight, or maybe just ruining a guy's life, getting financial control, basically using the system to dominate. And here's a really crucial part of the argument. The verdict almost doesn't matter. The idea is that the accusation is the weapon. Once it's out there, a man's reputation, his job, it's all shattered. The source argues that even if he's proven innocent, his life is, and I quote, never the same. Okay, so now that all the practical arguments are on the table, the video kind of pivots. It brings in this moral and spiritual framework, a biblical lens that changes how we're supposed to see this whole thing. First up, there's a quote from Proverbs, and this is used as a powerful metaphor, right? The scales of justice. By saying they're dishonest, the argument is framing this whole mess not just as a social problem, but as a deep moral failure, a spiritual crisis even. Then another quote is brought in, this time from Micah, and this one is used to really describe the personal nature of the conflict. The point being made is that the deepest betrayal comes from inside your own home, from the people you were supposed to trust the most. So, after laying out the problem and giving it this whole spiritual context, the argument wraps up with a direct call to action. It doesn't just leave you with the problem, it proposes a 3-step solution. Okay, so the solution is broken down into 3 main parts. First, it's a call for men to start speaking out, to demand fairness, and kind of shake off the shame that keeps them quiet. Second, it's a call for all of society to wake up and stop just assuming that women are always the victims and men are always the bad guys. And third, it's a call to return to what the source calls God's ways, to find true justice and expose all the deception. And the whole thing wraps up with a pretty stark warning. The stakes are presented as incredibly high, almost apocalyptic. The final message is basically, if we don't make these changes, this destruction is just going to continue and, well, the wrath of God will not be withheld forever. And there you have it. That's the argument laid out in the source video, from the first accusation to the final warning. It's a really structured case, you know? It uses legal claims, specific stats, and this deep spiritual framework, all tied together by that central idea of the dishonest scales. It's all designed to lead you to one specific conclusion. But it also leaves us all with a much bigger question to think about. When are the scales of justice truly balanced?